also goes to the energy that MAGA, Trumpism, that the modern right generates from transgression.
Yeah.
Once you have begun to exhaust the energy of transgression about how you talk about immigrants.
Yeah.
Trump comes down the escalator, says they're sending rapists and murderers over here. There's a big outrage. But now, being much more anti-immigrant on the right, I mean, that's de rigueur. Who cares?
Right.
Once you have moved past a bunch of the energy on dancing around racism,
Sure.
right? Once you have moved, on traditional gender roles, right? This is the boss battle of Western speech taboos.
Right.
That, and you have seen, this didn't begin last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You saw Elon Musk respond to somebody laying down a conspiracy that it's Jewish elites pushing immigrant voters to take over the country by saying, you've really spoken the truth here. You have a lot of the podcast bro faction that's turned more right, like Joe Rogan, bringing on revisionist historians. Who, was Germany really the bad guys in World War II? What kind of, what have we not been told about that? And so you sort of bring these two things together, that you want to build an ethno-state and you are ideologically opposed to there being anything you can't talk about. And you make your money and your attention on these algorithms. And it's almost a hydraulic process towards anti-Semitism.
Yeah. The thing about a kick, getting excitement from it, Sartre said it's amusing to be an anti-Semite. There is something, Mamdani, for example, who some people say is an anti-Semite because of his positions on Israel, he's very careful to say I'm not an anti-Semite and to express sensitivity to Jewish concerns.
And go to synagogues. And, Mamdani's a liberal.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but he also does not, whatever you think is at the heart of his politics, he does not Jew-bait, right? He is not practicing a politics that is based on the enjoyment of the harassment and getting a rise out of Jews, in other words. And Fuentes absolutely does. Tucker does to a more subtle extent. Candace Owen does. And that also attracts people because, people who feel powerless are very attracted to it because, there's someone you can harass and pick on. And it's part of their strategy to kind of take over the right in their direction is to do this, in a way, workplace harassment against their Jewish allies, to bait them, to get them to overreact, to unsettle them. The other thing you mentioned is that the taboos are breaking down because, World War II and the Holocaust is a long time ago. And the generation that experienced this is gone. And the politics that were created out of the consensus that it created is disappearing. So some of it is just the passage of time.
Again, this is tricky to talk about, but you can't get away here from how much Israel post-October 7th, the war and the flattening of Gaza, has destabilized politics around this everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think the ways in which it has created tensions on the left have gotten most of the attention for the past couple of years. But in fact, it's cracking open the right. And you hear it in this Carlson Fuentes interview. You hear it in the questions getting asked of J.D. Vance at various events.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm a Christian man, and I'm just confused why that there's this notion that we might have owe Israel something, or that they're our greatest ally. I'm just confused why this idea has come around, considering the fact that not only does their religion not agree with ours, but also openly supports the prosecution of ours.
Yeah, so...
Now, that MAGA on some level, it has really rooted itself in this semi-isolationist, very much America First position.
Right.
And this young, very online right, one, looks at what has happened in Gaza and I think correctly sees it as immoral.
Yeah.
But two, asks, why are we involved here at a time when we're pushing Europe out on its own?
Sure.
Right? When we are aggressively insisting that we have no stable alliances except what is directly in our self-interest at a given moment. There are ways, many, many, many ways to be anti-Israel without being anti-Semitic. But there is also a way in which I think, desire among Jews to say that what Israel is doing never can be connected to anti-Semitism breaks apart. And I never quite know how to talk about this, except that I feel like we're all living through it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, to put my cards on the table, I'm on the left side of the political spectrum, and I've been extremely critical of Israel, and especially its conduct in the war, which I believe they probably committed to genocide, and absolutely extreme war crimes. But what happened also was the creation of an enormous amount of free propaganda for anti-Semitic agitators. And also a lot of people becoming curious about U.S. foreign policy, history. There is a certain extent to which they're grabbing a lot of people who otherwise would be getting involved in the political process in a really positive way. They say, why is American foreign policy like this? Should we be doing this? What's the history behind all this? Like, why are these people fighting? Why are they killing each other? They have legitimate and interesting questions. But instead, that legitimate curiosity is being picked up by people who have another motivation here. I don't think that Tucker Carlson lost much sleep over the Arabs who died in Iraq.
War, I have I'm not defending the war in any way, but I just have zero sympathy for them or their culture, a culture where people just don't use toilet paper or forks.
And I don't really believe it when he now gets very sentimental about people in Gaza.
One of the reasons that I'm mad about Gaza is because the Israeli position is everyone who lives in Gaza is a terrorist because of how they were born, including the women and the children. That's not a Western view. That's an Eastern view. That's a non-Christian. That's totally incompatible with Christianity. So I hate that attitude. It's genocidal.
I think it's highly cynical. I think when Fuentes expresses some of the most, spiteful, dismissive attitudes towards human suffering you can imagine on his podcast, on his show. And then he gets very sentimental about this issue.
This is just a straight up genocide. These people are starving. They're literally dying. It would be formally called the famine, except that Israel will not let any international personnel inside the Strip to assess this, to make that declaration.
And, that is to drag people in and to think, well, these people have a heart and they're interested in the same topic as I'm interested in. I think it's highly cynical.